Someone erased it, not accidentally, not through neglect, not because it stopped working. Someone, deliberately, systematically, and with great purpose, removed one of the most powerful food-growing systems ever created by human hands from the historical record. They burned the manuscripts. They destroyed the demonstration sites. They outlawed the practice in newly colonized lands. They replaced the teachers with enforcers. And they replaced the system itself with something far less efficient, far more dependent, and far more profitable for those who controlled it. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented agricultural history. And today we are going to uncover exactly what was erased, who erased it, and why the knowledge they tried to bury is more urgently needed right now than at any point in the last 500 years. If you believe that the natural world holds answers that powerful systems have always tried to suppress, you are exactly where you need to be. At Lost Green Knowledge, we dig into the forgotten plants, buried agricultural systems, and erased ecological wisdom that once fed entire civilizations without destroying the earth beneath them. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Because what we are about to uncover is knowledge that certain interests spent centuries trying to make sure you would never hear. Let me take you back, not to one specific civilization, not to one specific continent, not to one specific century, because the food forest was not invented by one people in one place at one time. It emerged independently across dozens of cultures on nearly every inhabited landmass on Earth. In the rainforests of the Amazon, in the highlands of Ethiopia, in the ancient gardens of Persia, in the villages of Kerala in southern India, in the islands of Polynesia, in the forest edges of medieval Europe, in the terraced mountain communities of Southeast Asia, wherever human beings lived close to forests and paid deep attention to how forests actually functioned, they arrived at the same remarkable discovery: a forest feeds itself. It waters itself. It builds its own soil. It manages its own pests. It regulates its own temperature. It heals its own damage. A forest does not need a farmer. And the ancient people who understood this asked a question so simple and so profound that it changed everything for the communities who dared to act on it. What if we designed a forest to feed us? The food forest blueprint was built on one foundational observation that took centuries of careful watching to fully understand. A natural forest does not grow in chaos. It grows in layers. Every healthy forest on Earth organizes itself into the same vertical structure regardless of its location or climate. A canopy layer of tall trees forming the roof. A subcanopy layer of smaller fruiting trees finding light beneath the giants. A shrub layer of woody bush filling the middle spaces. A herbaceous layer of ground-level plants carpeting the forest floor. A ground cover layer of creeping plants and living mulches protecting the soil surface. A root layer of underground tubers and fungi working through the soil below. And in forests with suitable structures, a climbing layer of vines weaving through every vertical surface, linking all other layers together, 7 distinct growing spaces, all functioning simultaneously, all feeding each other, all producing food, medicine, fiber, and fuel without a single external input of any kind. Ancient food forest designers understood that if they populated each of these layers with plants useful to human beings, fruit trees in the canopy, nut trees in the subcanopy, berry bush in the shrub layer, medicinal herbs on the ground, root vegetables below, nitrogen-fixing plants woven throughout, they could create a system that produced more food per acre than any field crop agriculture ever developed, not slightly more, dramatically more. Historical accounts from Kerala in southern India describe traditional homestead food forests called home gardens producing over 150 different food and medicinal plants from a single acre of land, 150 species from 1 acre, with 0 synthetic inputs. 0 irrigation beyond rainfall, 0 purchased seeds, 0 soil amendments beyond what the system produced itself. And once established, once the layers were planted and the relationships between species began to form, These systems required a fraction of the labor that conventional field agriculture demanded, because a forest does not need to be plowed. It does not need to be replanted every season. It does not need to be irrigated, fertilized, or protected from pests by external intervention. It simply needs to be tended, harvested, guided, occasionally shaped. The way a gardener tends a relationship rather than the way a factory manages a production line. So if this system was so extraordinarily productive, so labor efficient, so ecologically sound, why are we not all living inside food forests today? This is where the history becomes uncomfortable and important. The deliberate erasure of the food forest blueprint did not happen all at once. It happened in waves. The first wave came with the rise of empire. When ancient empires expanded into new territories, one of their first acts was always agricultural conversion. Food forests were cleared, not because they were unproductive, but because they were uncontrollable. A family living inside a food forest is fundamentally independent. They grow their own food across dozens of species. They cannot be easily starved into submission. They cannot be made dependent on centrally controlled grain supplies. They cannot be taxed on 100 different crops scattered through a layered forest the way they can be taxed on a single grain. Field that is visible, measurable, and quantifiable from a distance. Empire requires dependence, and food forests create the opposite. Roman agricultural policy actively discouraged what we would now call agroforestry in conquered territories, pushing populations toward monoculture grain production that could be monitored, measured, taxed, and if necessary withheld. The food forest was not destroyed because it failed the people. It was destroyed because it succeeded too completely. The second and most devastating wave of erasure came with colonial expansion beginning in the 15th century, when European colonial powers arrived in the Amazon, in West Africa, in South and Southeast Asia, in Mesoamerica. They encountered landscapes that confused and disturbed them. They saw forests, lush, dense, layered, productive forests that the indigenous populations moved through with intimate knowledge, harvesting food, medicine, fiber, and building materials from what appeared to European eyes to be simply wilderness. The colonial administrators, trained in the European agricultural tradition of cleared fields and monoculture, looked at these managed food forests and saw nothing. They declared the land uncultivated. They declared the people primitive. And they cleared the forests. What they did not understand, or perhaps what they understood perfectly and chose to ignore, was that these forests were not wild, they were gardens, designed, planted, managed, and refined over generations by some of the most sophisticated ecological engineers in human history. In the Amazon alone, scientists now estimate that up to 12% of the entire forest is composed of species clusters that indicate ancient human management. Trees do not cluster that way naturally. Somebody planted them. The people who planted them were gone, displaced, killed, or assimilated by colonial violence, but their food forests remained, slowly being reclaimed by the surrounding wild forest. Their original design still faintly visible in the species patterns if you know how to look. The colonial clearing of these landscapes was not simply an agricultural policy. It was the destruction of a knowledge library that had been assembled across thousands of years of careful ecological observation, and it was irreversible. You cannot unclear a forest in a generation. You cannot replant in years what took centuries to design. The knowledge died with the people who carried it, or almost died. The third wave of erasure was quieter, more modern, more insidious in some ways because it came dressed not as conquest but as progress. In the late 19th and throughout the 20th century, the industrialization of agriculture systematically devalued and dismantled every remaining food forest tradition that had survived the previous waves of destruction. Agricultural extension programs funded by governments and later by chemical and seed companies promoted monoculture as the definition of modern farming. Farmers who maintained diverse polyculture systems, food forests, home gardens, integrated agroforestry. were told they were backward, were denied credit, were excluded from subsidies designed for monoculture production, were told by trained agronomists who had never studied ecology that their systems were inefficient and unscientific. The traditional knowledge holders, the grandmothers who knew which plants grew together, the village elders who understood the layered garden design, the seed keepers who maintained hundreds of varieties, were not consulted, they were bypassed. And as their communities were pulled into the cash economy, as young people moved to cities, as traditional agricultural landscapes were converted to export monocultures, the living knowledge of the food forest began to disappear from active practice, not because it had been proven inferior, but because the economic and political systems surrounding agriculture had been so completely restructured that there was no longer a financial pathway to maintaining it. The erasure in this final wave was not carried out with fire and violence. It was carried out with subsidies, credit systems, extension programs, and the quiet death of a practice when the people who knew it had nowhere left to practice it. But here is what they could not erase completely. The earth remembers. In the remnant home gardens of Kerala, still maintained by farming families who resisted the pressure to convert, researchers have documented over 150 food and medicinal species, growing in a single quarter-acre plot, a complexity of production that no modern agricultural system has come close to replicating. In the Amazon, ethnobotanists working with the few remaining indigenous communities who maintained their traditional knowledge have documented food forest management systems of extraordinary sophistication, systems that manage hundreds of species across all 7 layers, producing food year-round, building soil continuously, and maintaining biodiversity that surrounding cleared agricultural land has completely lost. In West Africa, traditional parkland agroforestry systems where farmers grow crops beneath deliberately retained native trees are showing yields in long-term studies that match or exceed monoculture systems, while simultaneously rebuilding soil organic matter, maintaining water tables, and providing food security that monocultures cannot offer during climate shocks. In Europe, a quiet but growing movement of food forest designers drawing on all of these surviving traditions is establishing new food forests. Across the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Scandinavia, demonstrating on modern land what the ancient designers understood. Intuitively through centuries of ecological observation, the knowledge was suppressed, but it was never fully destroyed. It survived in the practice of communities who had no reason to abandon what worked. It survived in the genetics of plant communities that still cluster in the patterns their ancient designers intended. It survived in the memory of landscapes that have not yet forgotten what they once were. We are living through a moment when the consequences of the choice that was made 5 centuries ago to clear the food forests, to consolidate agricultural control, to replace ecological diversity with chemical-dependent monoculture are becoming impossible to ignore. Soil degradation affecting 1/3 of the Earth's agricultural land. Water tables collapsing under the weight of irrigation demands that natural farming systems never required. Biodiversity loss accelerating as monoculture landscapes eliminate the ecological complexity that sustained life for millions of years. Climate instability exposing the fragility of food systems built on the assumption that weather would remain predictable. And in the middle of all of this, the food forest blueprint sits waiting, not as nostalgia, not as a romantic fantasy about returning to the past, but as a proven, documented, scientifically studied system of food production that solves nearly every crisis that industrial agriculture has created. While producing more food, building more soil, using less water, and requiring less labor than any monoculture system ever designed, they tried to erase it. They did not succeed. Lost green knowledge exists because this information belongs to everyone. Because the blueprint was not the property of the empires that destroyed it. It belonged to the communities who built it, to the generations who refined it, to the land that made it possible, and it belongs to us now if we choose to receive it. If this video gave you something real, a piece of history that was taken from all of us, please leave a like. It tells the algorithm that this knowledge deserves to reach more people. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper into what was buried, what was burned, and what is still quietly waiting to be remembered. And share this with someone who still believes that modern agriculture is the pinnacle of human food wisdom. Because somewhere right now, in Kerala and the Amazon and West Africa and a quiet corner of a European garden, the food forest is still growing, still layered, still feeding, still waiting for the rest of us to remember what it always knew.